Welcome everybody. Good morning, Chag Sameach, Moadim Lesimcha. It's good to be with all of you this day. People are still joining, so I'll wait a moment more before beginning and introducing today. It would be very nice if people want to introduce themselves, say hello using the chat. Where are you joining from? Anything you want to share this morning, so then we make it a little more connected through the Zoom, which is always a little hard. I love seeing people. Ilana sitting in your beautiful sukkah. So nice. I was going to do it from the TVZ sukkah, but I got nervous that the internet won't be as good. So I decided to stay in my office. Okay. So welcome all of you. I am really honored to welcome Rabbi Avi Dabush to join us this morning from, I believe, Beersheba. Are you in Beersheba right now?
I just came back from Nirim, actually. I was with a group, but now I'm in Beersheba.
Okay, so you'll tell us about that in a moment. Who some of us actually met in person when we were in Israel in February. What was it? 2022, February 22. Fran, I think it was
23. Yeah.
23, February 2023.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah. February 2023, where we had a trip of Temple Sinai and TBZ, and we went to Kibbutz Nirim and met with Avi and learn about the kibbutz and walk around the kibbutz. This is before we ever imagined this could happen. And I had the opportunity to meet Avi a few times since then. But mostly what I want to say is that since October 7th, a year ago, Avi has been an inspiring a rabbi teacher for me, who went and is going through such a difficult time with his kibbutz and the day itself, but has always held into vision and hope and activism. And I've been just so impressed and really always checking what Avi has to say, and then I quote him because I feel he has so much to share with us. So I'm very honored that he's joining us. A little bit about him. Rabbi Avi was ordained as a rabbi 2 weeks ago or so by the Israeli Rabbinate of the Shalom Hartman Institute and the Midrasha Oranim. And he's one of the founders of the Negev Council and the movement of the Periphery. He's the executive director of Rabbis for Human Rights in Israel. And on October 7th, Avi survived Hamas terror attack at his home in Kibbutz Nirim. He and his family are currently displaced person in temporary accommodation, and he has become a leading voice in advocating for the return of the hostages and continues his call for human rights and peace across the region. So I'll be asking some questions to Avi, and Avi will share with us. If people have questions, just put them in the chat and I'll try to get to some of them, probably not all of them, and we're glad to bring more. So Avi, tell us a little bit about yourself and also maybe a little bit about Kibbutz Nirim before October 7th. So those who weren't there can learn about the kibbutz and the Negev and about you.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you all for the invitation. ומועדים לשמחה, חג שמח. Okay, so I was born and grew up in Ashkelon, actually in a right-wing, Mizrahi-oriented family, Orthodox religious family. My first rabbi was Rabbi Chaim Druckmann. I guess some of you knows that Rabbi Chaim Druckmann was one of the leaders. He passed away 2 years ago. One of the leaders of the religious Zionism, what we call religious Zionism in Israel, but more specifically the extreme streams of religious Zionism, including supporting Smotrich in his last years of Rabbi Chaim Druckmann. And I was part of Bnei Akiva movement. And this whole project of Bnei Akiva, and the youth movement, but also the yeshivot. I was in Rabbi Chaim Druckmann yeshiva, is taking place in a very crucial and dangerous, and I may say violent way in the politics now in Israel, unfortunately. But I grew up there. In a way, it gives me a lot of insights to the right-wing politics today, and also a lot of respect for the people. I know that also in the US there is not only debate between the parties, but also between the people themselves, as the political identities become so important. So it is important, but of course I can respect, because all of my family is like that, and I used to live again in Ashkelon and in Sderot for many years and so on. So I really can respect and understand a lot of the views and the ideas of the right wing. So that was the place that I grew up in. For more than 20 years, I'm involved in civil society work, in politics in the very general way, including party politics. In 2008, we moved as a family to Bor Hail. It's a kibbutz near Sderot. And after that, I moved to Sderot for 6 years. And again, as Claudia mentioned, as Rav Claudia mentioned, we moved to Nirim. Actually, we had our celebration, our Chanukot Beit, on December 7th, 2022. It was exactly 10 months before October 7th. So I live 16 years in Gaza enveloped or in the Western Negev. In 2014, I led the establishment of the movement for the future of the Western Negev. It was during the war in the summer of 2014, Protective Edge, it's called. And we led the voice for diplomatic solution. We had this slogan of real security, diplomatic solution. This is the only way for real security. And of course, we shouted for the public in Israel, and of course to Netanyahu and his government and governments, that we must have strategy. This is not a small problem. This is not a thing that we can suffer, we and our families and children and so on. And we understood fully that we are kind of I don't know the exact word for that, but in a way we are in our bodies need to prevent the diplomatic solution. You know, we can suffer, that was the idea, we can suffer those wars around Gaza, but we need to find a way to avoid any negotiation, to avoid any connection with the Palestinian Authority. And for that, of course, we need to enforce, or we need to encourage the reality of Hamas as a terror organization that is proving that the Palestinians doesn't want peace. So we were the victim of that for many years. Actually, it was since 2001. The first rocket hit the Sderot in April 2001. But of course, we couldn't imagine. And again, my friend Claudia said that you were in Nirim, like it was 8 months before October 7th, and you saw how beautiful it is, and you met some of our beautiful and strong and smart girls that talked about their future in Nirim, and they see their hope to become families and so on established again in Nirim. And we didn't thought that something like that would happen. I will say a few words about Nirim. Nirim has a very deep-rooted history in the Zionist history of the Negev. It was established in October 6th, 1946, one of the 11 points. At the same night, 11 settlements were established, most of them kibbutzim, like Periphery, like Shoval, like Nirim. And that was a crucial point in the yet to become Jewish state, to have power, or to have boots on the ground in the Negev. So that was almost two years before the establishment of Israel. On the day, or on the next day to the establishment of Israel, Nirim was in the midst of a very big war on May 15th, 1948. And at the end of that day, the chief commander in this area, Chaim Bar-Lev, after that he was the head of the IDF. He wrote, "In Nirim, we won the war." That was the first day, and it was a very long war, not long as this war, but he said that if 1,000 soldiers, Egyptian soldiers, with tanks and airplanes couldn't conquer Nirim with 39 people that guard Nirim, we will win the war. And actually, the myth is that all the kibbutz was destroyed, and only one wall stayed. And on this wall, there was a statement that we are not winning in tanks, we are winning as humans. לא הטנק ינצח כי אם האדם, if you want it in Hebrew. So it is a very deep narrative of Nirim, of to be very courageous, to be in a way to have their own way, and self-sufficient, like we can do it in our own way. And that was really evident. We will go into October 7th in a minute, but we saw the power of the narrative in a very good way after October 7th. What else about Nirim? It's a small kibbutz, around little more than 400 people in the kibbutz, mostly based on agriculture. In our area, we are less than 2 kilometers from Khan Yunis. Of course, this is really important for our story, and we have a lot of agriculture in this area. I mentioned 2014, in the last day of this war, Nirim lost two very important friends, Zevi Ketzion and Shachar Melamed. They were responsible, the leaders of security in the kibbutz, and that was a great shock and tragedy to the kibbutz. My wife, after that, was the secretary of the kibbutz. This is the head of the community, and she invested a lot of efforts in order to prevent the community to collapse after this tragedy. Of course, now, or on October 7th, we are talking about the tragedy in a very different scale, unfortunately.
Thank you, Avi. So you mentioned the 2 kilometers. I remember those of you who were there. You walked us, actually. Anat, your wife, walked us to see how close it is. We have all these pictures where you can see Khan Yunis really very much from from the kibbutz, and I think it was kind of like realizing, especially for those of us who live here in America, the distance are so big, so far away, to see how everything is so small and so close. So perhaps before going to October 7th, can you tell us about the relationship with the people in Gaza before October 7th? What's the relation of people in the Negev, in the kibbutz? What if you had any relationship with people in Gaza before this terrible day?
Yeah, so as a child in Ashkelon, I was born in 1976, and my father used to serve in the army for many years, and he was serving inside of Gaza. And in a lot of ways, Gaza was our big city for Ashkelon and for Sderot, and of course for the kibbutzim in the area. So that was very common, even daily, to go to the market of Gaza, to the beach in Gaza, to the dentist, to the garage, and so on. And also it was open in the other direction. A lot of people from Gaza came each day to work in our fields, to build our houses, not only in the Negev and in the south, but also in the center of Israel. So till the first Intifada, till 87, 88, it was really open border. Of course, I can say now there was an occupation, of course, and power relations and so on, but we didn't see it. And the border was open in that sense, that they could go inside, have permits, and walk inside of Israel. And many thousand, maybe hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from Gaza people came outside. And again, we came inside in a daily thing or event. My mother used to say that she can't believe that as a child she was with me in the market, and even I'm in the car. Of course, it was another days. I'm in the car alone in the market of Gaza, and my children, they are now 15 and 18, can't really imagine this reality, because all they know, of course, is the reality of war. And Nirim, as I mentioned, is very close to Khan Yunis, and has a very important and special tradition, because Nirim has its own Shir Shalom, the Song of Peace, specifically for Nirim, that was written in 1956. It was after the war, or another war in 56. That was the first time that Israel conquered Gaza and gave up after 2 months or something like that. And that was a song. It is a song about the peace between Nirim and Khan Yunis. It's not a very big song about the Israel, like the big peace song, if you know it, like Rabin sang in his last hours. But it's about Nirim and Khan Yunis, and how we will kind of let go of our weapons and just sit together and talk about agriculture and about our families and so on, and go to see a movie in Khan Yunis and so on, like daily common life, and a very patriotic way to see the area. Like we are in the same area. We used to be, most of us invest in agriculture. We have the same view, the same beach, the same fields, the same ground, the same fields. So that was the idea. And Nirim is a Shomer HaTzair kibbutz. So again, it's basic philosophy and ideas is about Zionism, but also about peace and equality. And for many years, a lot of peace activists came from Nirim, but also from Niroz, our neighboring kibbutz, from Be'eri, and you know some, I guess, like Vivian Silver, like Chaim Perry, or Dad Lifshitz, unfortunately becoming famous in a very tragic circumstances. So for many years, Nirim held these ideas, and even after Protective Edge, and even after very harsh wars, we still sang this song. In the last year, I must say, we didn't. We sang the famous song of Chernichovsky, Sachki Sachki, again about the belief in the spirit of the human, of man, of all mankind, but not this song. I really hope. I just said, I told Danat, we mentioned her, that we must sing it also in the next Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day. I hope we will do.
So tell us about October 7th for you, for Anat, for your family, for the people in the kibbutz. Tell us about that day as much as you want to share with us.
Yeah. So on October 7th, actually the Chag HaKibbutz, the anniversary of the kibbutz, was the day before, as I mentioned, 77 years. So we celebrated on the eve of Simchat Torah, on the eve of October 6th. So that means that most of the people of the kibbutz were in the kibbutz in that weekend, in that holiday, and also a lot of visitors. Around 6:30, we started to hear the alarms. Like in Nirim, it's Tzeva Adom, code red. It's not normal sirens. We have, for the most, 15 seconds in order to run to the shelter. But we are really used to have these circumstances, and we ran. I was with Anat, with my wife, in our bed, and we ran and woke up her children. Ethan is 12 years, used to be 12 years old then, and Ori, which some of you met, 15 years old. And we ran with them and with our dog to the shelter. My children were, thanks God, in Bor Chayil, in another kibbutz in the area, but not on the border of Gaza. So they were there all that day and after that. So it started like that, and again, a lot of alarms. So we started to understand something is unusual, but again, it's not unusual that we didn't know this event like that before. Like, we are talking again about more than 20 years and on the border of Gaza. And after about 5 minutes, we start to hear gun shooting inside of the kibbutz. In a kind of an instinct, I ran outside the shelter and closed all the electric windows and locked the door. The door was open, it's a kibbutz, everything is open, and brought back to the shelter our cell phones, our chargers, water, and just asking all of us to shut all the lights and also the air condition, and just wait to see what is happening. Again, I didn't know for sure that terrorists, Hamas terrorists are inside the kibbutz, but it's not a thing that we couldn't think about. And in a way, we were prepared for that. Maybe 3-4 people with guns will get into the kibbutz, and after 10 minutes, we have our squad, some people with, civilians with guns, and then the army will come and everything will be okay. But for now, of course, we have to guard our life. And after another around 5 minutes, we heard comments in Arabic beside our window, our shelter window, and we knew for sure that there are Hamas soldiers inside the kibbutz and outside our home, actually, in our neighborhood. And this started a very long day, and actually more than 30 hours that we were in our shelter, and then after 12 hours, more than 12 hours in the community shelter. Actually, it was where you were in the kind of a club of the kibbutz, Moadon HaKibbutz. So there is a big shelter then there for all the community. So the IDF took us there in the evening, because at night you can't really guard each home. So in our case, we were 8 hours without any army. That, of course, was the biggest question in that day, and still, in a way, one of the biggest questions about where was the army in all those hours. And that was a question not only for us, but in all the area. I must say that I'm thinking more and more about what happened, not as a family event or a community event. Of course, a lot of families are broken since then, and a lot of communities, and we are displaced still our community. But this is a story of an area of the Gaza envelope, of the Western Negev, and we can see also now, if you will come, and I hope we will see you soon, and in better days in our area. You can see that the area is really broken, and this will be for many years, and we have to work very hard in order to change that. So again, about October 7th, we were 8 hours without any army. The terrorists are all around. In that day, we know that something like from 90 to 100 Hamas soldiers were inside Nirim. At the end of the day, 5 civilians were murdered, and 5 were kidnapped, and 3 soldiers were murdered or killed. It was a very short battle, but that was one of the little miracles or occasions that really saved a lot of us. But I must say that this is, again, if I'm comparing that to our neighbors in Nir Oz, of course, it's much smaller numbers. In Nir Oz, more than 100 people were murdered or kidnapped. Again, it's around the same size as Nirim, so it's more than quarter of the kibbutz community in Nir Oz. In Nirim, again, it's devastating numbers, because just think about this very little community, but it's much smaller, and it's not the place and the time to say exactly why it happened. But at the end, after 8 hours, the army came into our house and cleared our house, like going from room to room, and the closet, and beneath the beds and so on, just checking inside each house that there isn't any terrorists. In some of them, they found terrorists, and there were battles there. And then, as I mentioned, and then they pushed us again into our shelter for 4 more hours. And then around 7 o'clock in the evening, we were evacuated to the big shelter, to the big community shelter. That was the point that we all saw each other, and you couldn't see the shock on the faces, and understand, of course, that your face is the same. Like people are in shock, can't believe to what happened. It was that quality of that day was again and again. I told Anat, I can't believe that this is the reality. Please tell me that this is not the reality. It's some kind of very sick and I don't know, unbearable dream. And then we started to hear again the news about people in the kibbutz, Doron and his daughter Mor, that were killed in their home, Oran Al-Fassi, that they shot on him on the door of the shelter. You know, we found out only in this day that it's not bulletproof. Yeah, you said. And Roy Popplewell, that heard that his mother and brother are kidnapped, so he ran outside trying to help them, and they shot him on the way. And of course, they didn't know, Hannah and Nadav, when they were taken to Gaza, they didn't know about it. Hannah and 3 of the hostages came back after around 50 days in the first and only deal, unfortunately. And Nadav and Yagev that were kept a lot of months, were killed, were murdered. Actually, we don't know exactly when, but around February or March, and we got their bodies only at the last days of August. And we have fuel of Ro'i and Nadav and Yagev in the same day. So that was our October 7th and October 8th. Around October 8th on Sunday afternoon, the army gave us some kind of 10 minutes to go to the houses and took whatever we can, and then evacuate us to Eilat. We were there as a community in the same hotel for 4 months. And we decided in November, after a few weeks, that we must move as a community to another place, because it is really hard to live as families and as a community in an hotel. And we moved around the end of January or the first days of February to Beersheba. And since then, we are here. We don't know yet when we can go back. Right now, it's a security matter. Like the IDF is saying that we can't go back. We and another 9 settlements, most of them kibbutzim on the border of Gaza, because we are really close to the war, close to Khan Yunis. Now we are talking about maybe after Passover, around April, or next summer, that we can go back to Nirim. And again, our neighbors in Niroz and our more far neighbors in Be'eri and Kfar Aza, I guess it will take 3 or 4 years in order for them to come back.
Thank you, Avi, for sharing all this. I have so many questions connected to what you share. Maybe we can, you can share a little bit about the hostages. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about each of them. And I know, because I follow you, you officiated the funerals of your dear friends, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that experience to us.
Yeah, I took upon myself to be the coordinator to the families, to the hostages families, and also the grieving families of the people that got murdered. And also for the families that are outside the kibbutz, like the soldiers that got killed in that day in the kibbutz. As I mentioned, there were 3 women from the hostages, Hannah Perry, which is the mother of Ro'i and Nadav that were murdered. Noralin, which was a visitor, actually. She's originally from the Philippines, and now she, in the last years, she moved to Israel. And her husband Gidon was killed. Actually, she didn't know. Again, she didn't know that he was killed only after she came back. And we have Rimon Kirsch Buchstav, the wife of Yagev, that also came back in the last day of the deal. And she became famous in the way that she stood upon her captures, like the Hamas people. And Yagev and Nadav stayed there. We knew a lot of what happened with them, because all of them were together. Nadav really supported his mother, supported also others, but especially his mother, with the little bit of medicines that they have in the last days. After that became worse and worse in each day. And encouraged her in order to have the courage to suffer this captivity. And then she of course, she and Rimon thought that it is days that they will come after them, Yagev and Nadav. But they encouraged them, Yagev and Nadav, to go, because they need to save themselves. And also Yegev and his family, actually, the Buchka family is a very dear friend of ours for many years. And they are so special. They are the most gentle family that I know in the world. And I remember that in the first day, Esther, the mother of Yegev, she told me that she don't want to go to in the media to interviews and so on because she is so gentle. But then she understood that she have to, and they became one of the leading forces of the campaign of the families, and still are. You know, it's amazing to see those grieving families after they really hoped for a different future and to see their loved ones and so on. And after they don't have anything to hope for, they are still like a big family, still very invested in this campaign in order to help the other families. You know, we have still families, and we know or we hope that we have many of the 101 that are still alive and have some kind of hope. So Yegev was such a unique person. He was so humanistic. He was an artist, a musician, also loved to cook. And one of the famous story of Rimon is that when they took them from their home to Gaza, he took his guitar, and then they took it from him by force. And then he told Rimon that if some child will get it in Gaza, some child that didn't have any opportunity to have an instrument, so that is good for him, and he support that. So this is a very unique family. And the Popplewell family, again, as I mentioned, they lost Roy and Nadav. Ayelet, she's the third daughter. She's from Yegur, Kibbutz Yegur, and she's also. This is amazing to see the courage and the power that all those people have. I also was part of creating and writing a book that was published a month ago with, again, families, especially mothers and fathers that lost their children during October 7th and after that in the war. And this is amazing to see the power of life, you know, of those people. Like, I can't imagine that, and I hope that no one will here, and just a few of us will ever. But to lose your child. But again, you can see again and again the power of people that really choose to live each day, and they are grieving and broken and so on, but so strong, and that was amazing. And about the fuels, I can say that was another very dark time in this year, and we had a lot of those dark times. That we got a lot of bodies, the bodies of Nadav and Yegev and another four dear friends from Niroz. And after that, the famous six that were murdered. Again, some of them friends like Carmel from Be'eri. Carmel Gat used to be a volunteer in Rabbis for Human Rights. I didn't mention I'm a CEO of Rabbis for Human Rights. And each year she came to the olive harvest. Right now, we are in this term of year in the olive harvest in the West Bank, helping the Palestinian farmers against the Jewish terror, against the Hasselmans and the violence and so on. So she came again and again every year, and we lost her. So that was a very difficult times, and people were enraged in Israel and came outside again to demonstrate. But we had in this year and after until now a lot of feelings, you know, and I'm always saying that nothing is, I can understand each feeling, you know, each Israeli feeling like disappointment and anger and even the need to revenge and so on. It's all human, but we have to choose. And I'm choosing each day to believe and to be like deep rooted in another values, the values also, the moral values of Judaism itself, like peace and equality and justice and human rights. So this is part of their legacy also, and this is hard for some of the Israelis to hear. And we want to hear about the legacies of the people, and this is of course part of it. The people that were really kind and really good for their families and communities. And again, this is a grief of an area. We knew so many people that were very important in this area. So this, of course, part of it, but also there is a big legacy of people that were very humanistic, very activist, like Vivian Silver, which was, again, a partner and friend and so on from Be'eri, and led for many years peace actions, but also like shared living of Bedouins and Jews together in the Negev, or Chaim Perry that was was an activist in Baderech LaHachlama, taking people from Gaza to hospitals inside of Israel, and again Carmel and Negev and many others. And I believe that this is also part of our obligation to have this legacy not kind of torn or like shut down because the loudest voices now in Israel are against it. And now we must talk only about war and power and violence and so on. So this is part of what we heard in those fuels and from those families.
Thank you, Avi. So two questions that maybe are connected. One is connected to the Anima Amin, I believe. So from the first day, from the shelter, just maybe a few minutes, a couple of hours after you understood what was happening, your post on Facebook, which I read every time, I'm always following, you wrote, Anima Amin, I believe, and I actually quoted you that first Shabbat at TVZ, and since then, in the worst days and a little less than worst day, you always end with the word Anima Amin. So tell us more about what you believe. What do you believe? And then I will make maybe the question a little layered. Is like, what are you protesting? I think that not everybody understand what these protests are about. What is the protest? And I'm assuming the Ma'amin and the protest have something in common. So if you can talk about that.
Wow, it's really interesting, and we don't have enough time. But I guess I just want to say that another rabbi, a friend of mine, she asked me about the Anima. Do you really believe? How can you believe in this very terrible and dark time? And I said that I do have despair moments, you know, 3 times a day or something like that, but 4 times or more, I do believe. And this is the more important thing, to go back again and again. And there is a famous saying of Meir Ariel, he used to be a famous singer in Israel, of Adam tzoek et shechaser lo, like a human being is shouting the thing that he misses the most. So this is kind of this shout that I need this belief. And I'm saying I believe, but it's also a way for me to say for myself, I need that. I need more of that. So if you ask me about what do I believe, I really believe that we will find a solution. I really 100% positive on that Israelis and Arabs, Zionists and Palestinians will find a way to live together, because there is no other good option. The only question, of course, is how much time and how much blood will spill. And this is a thing for our leaders that are not courageous And some of them, unfortunately, in our government now, and of course, I'm not talking about the Hamas. Of course, it's a very twisted and dark reality. But we have now in our government forces that really believe in power, in Jewish supremacy, in violence. And I do believe that we will find a solution. But I'm really worried when I'm looking on this leadership that it will take a lot of time and blood. And this is also about the demonstrations, because political leaders have to understand, and of course we are talking about democracies, and the democracies in our culture that are really populist and so on. They do need to understand what we think and what we will vote for. And we have to show that for the leaders, and also for the civil society, for the Israelis. And a lot of Israelis are really support those values. Actually, the majority. In polls, we can see it. But full of desperation, full of despair. And I meet a lot of people that are saying, we really support those values. Again, it's hard to support that from Nirim, from Israel right now, and so on. But we do support that. But we are afraid to raise our voice because I was in Tisha B'Av in Ramat Gan, and I was teaching with Eliza Bloch and other people, and I talked about the children of Gaza. We must think also about them. And 4 of the 100 people in the crowd stood up and started to shout on me, you don't understand what they did, the Hamas. So I said, I do understand, I was there. But again, okay, they shouted, and that's okay. But after that, after we finished, more than 4 people, some 10 people, something like that, came quietly and said, we support you and thank you for saying that, and so on. But they were really afraid to say that in the crowd, because it's really a thing that now most of the people in Israel think that this is not the majority, and this is not a good thing to say, and this not the supportive thing or considerable thing to say. So I do believe in those values, and I do believe that if we are raising our voice, we allow others, or we free others to raise this voice with us. And again, I'm doing that for my children and for my Israel. I'm Zionist, I'm patriotic, and of course I believe in Judaism, in our culture. And I do believe that if we will give up on our values, and this is the more important war right now, if we will give up on those Jewish and universal moral values, we will hurt our heritage and our culture. And this is far more dangerous of losing in this war. Of course, I don't want to lose in this war, but it will be devastating for all of us.
Thank you. I have a question here that Myron wrote in the chat, and if anybody has a question, this is your chance, as we'll finish at 11. Myron asked, and Myron was with us in Kibbutz Nirim when we met you in February 2023. He read, painfully wondering how our Jewish world continues to maintain meaningful relationship to our brethren in Israel and Palestine, and the challenge of this continually exhausting time with so little prospect for positive outcomes. So in a way, what's the relationship between us, the Jewish world, and meaningful relationship with people in Israel and Palestine?
So on the political level, we have a lot of kind of hopes for you to manage to push the American politics and leaders in order to help us more. I don't know if you can do more, but
What does it mean? What help? What do we need to push? From your perspective, what
of
do
course, for a deal right now, for a negotiation, for a deal, for bringing back the hostages, for ending this war, this terrible war, more than a year. We are losing each day lives of Israelis, of course, very young Israeli soldiers, but a lot of lives in Gaza. And we must also think about that this is our responsibility. And I'm not saying that there is any excuse about what happened on October 7th. And I really love the phrase in the Torah, "Lo tuchal להתעלם." You can't ignore. So you can't ignore, and of course there are people, maybe some of them we thought that they are friends of ours or our values, that really do ignore what happened on October 7th and ignore the hostages and so on. But we can't also ignore what is happening right now in Gaza, in Lebanon, and so on. And we must have a lot of questions about it. You know, I believe it was something like 15 years ago, Israel yet killed another leader of Hamas. You can see that this is like again and again within this, yeah, this is a circle, that it's a kind of magic that will do something, but it's not, of course. And 22 people got killed, civilians got killed with him. And there was a very big debate on that in Israel. Also, I think it became a Supreme Court conflict. And right now, when we killed Nasrallah, 300 people were killed. And again, maybe you can justify that, and maybe you can say it saved much more lives. Okay, I can do this argument, but there wasn't any question about it, and it's only we are happy about that, and we are not thinking about what happened to the civilians. So again, this is on the political sphere, but I believe, and it's not a very concrete thing, that we have a partnership in like trying to. I will be dramatic and say save Judaism in a lot of ways, because of course we always had this kind of tension and debate between the more particular thought and more universal, between Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai and Rabbi Akiva or others. But now it's really, I think we are in the midst of times like when there was the temple destroyed, like 70, the year 70, like very violent streams in Judaism that think that God is on our side and is working for us, and whatever we will do, there will be some kind of a miracle. And of course, we are better than other people just because we are Jews or just because we are in specific stream. And this is really a very big danger to Judaism. So I guess in that we are partners, and we must find a way to raise the voice of those values and to say, we do support the security of Israel. We do support the Israeli right to defend itself and so on, those slogans that are really important. But right now, we are really supporting those values because we can't support, and we must separate the security of people, and now using those crazy ideas and values that are trying to only promote death and violence, and just using power as the only tool and the only value that stayed in Israel.
Thank you. You know, you mentioned the killing of Nasrallah, and of course, right now in my mind, also the killing of Sinwar. You know, when I think, Avi, you know that my mother was killed in a terrorist attack 30 years ago, which Nasrallah is the the ultimate responsible. I got so many messages. Are you feeling good now? Are you happy? I'm like, no. Like this idea that death will bring me some kind of either joy or hope. And it is kind of a crazy world where we are living, where we think that by killing them, we will find a solution. So just that's in my mind. So thank you for mentioning that. We need to finish in a minute or two, but there were two more questions and you choose how short, just you can do a short answers. One was by Dana who asked, or Dana, who asked, how do we believe when we read that every Palestinian child is taught explicitly to be an anti-Semite and many Arabs deeply believe in that Jewish people deserve death? So that's one very difficult question. And the other one from Fran, who was there with us and met the kids, the teenagers that we met that day with you at Nirim. And she said, when asked how they saw their peers in Gaza, they said they could be as if we were born 2 kilometers away. They're just like that, no hate whatsoever, and if had any change for those teenagers. So it's kind of a two sides to the question of our children and the people in Gaza.
Yeah. So Oli is living in our house, and I just met Noga yesterday. I can say that and I will meet her tomorrow because I will meet Shomer HaTzair leaders in all the area, and she is part of it. So I know for sure for both of them that they still believe in peace and still believe that we must have respect to the lives of people, in Gaza. And about the first question, it is really important question. In polls, we can see that the people in Gaza support the Hamas less than the people in the West Bank. And we know also that the Hamas have manipulation on those polls. It doesn't mean that tomorrow, if there will be elections, free elections, I don't know if there is any possibility for that, or if they will have a chance, they will support, of course, Israel, they wouldn't support, but the Palestinian Authority or Abu Mazen or I don't know what. But again, we must create another reality. You must understand, as I mentioned, that for many years, the people of Gaza was our partners, our employees, our gardeners and farmers and builders and so on. And we know a lot of families there. And we just need to have another reality, circumstances, and support another values. But again, I'm not naive in the way that I'm saying, okay, we will drop all our weapons and just believe in that. Of course not. We have to defend ourselves, and this is really important for us. And we must find a way, if we want to come back to Nirim, also find a way to live a secure life. But the most secure life will be if there will be another streams there, another reality, another education, as you mentioned, and another philosophy of people that really just want to live a good life. And even, and there are people like that, but we want really much more that do believe in peace and living together side by side. I think we lost Claudia. Yeah. Okay, so I will just say thank you. I must go to my other mission. Chag Sameach, and I hope to see you soon in better times. Bye.
Did I freeze for a second? Okay, I'm back. Did Avi leave? Okay. I was thanking him. What happened at the end? Can someone tell me? Did you just...
Recording in progress.
Can someone tell me?
He said he thought he lost, he said that it sounds like we lost Claudia.
Okay. Okay. I'll write to him and then I'll oops. I just have two and I'll thank him. Thank you everybody for being here. Great, thank you.